Welcome back to the cat vlog. This is episode number 41.
Thanks, Cosmo. Hey guys, haven't really been putting out too many videos lately, but that's gonna change. I'm gonna put out a lot this month. I've been pretty busy with traveling. I was in LA doing live at the bike stuff, which was really fun. I'll have some videos that come out from that trip. But before that, I was in Northern California, and this episode is actually gonna be of a session that I played with my buddy Check Raise Charles, fellow poker vlogger. We were in San Francisco and we played at Lucky Chances, which is kind of where I first started playing 3-5. Right after college, I was leasing apartments in the city, and after work and on the weekends, I would go over there. I was probably a break-even or maybe even a slightly losing player before I started taking poker more seriously and moved to Vegas to play full-time. But yeah, it was good to be back. Hope you guys enjoy this episode, and let's get to it. Once we get to the poker room, I buy in for 500, which is the max for the 3-5 game. In the first big hand, we look down at ace-king offsuit in the small blind. A player in middle position limps in, the hijack raises to 20, I make a standard 3-bet to 70. It folds back to the hijack, who goes all in for 392 total. In a previous hand, this player opened and just flatted a 3-bet with ace-king. Here, he's 4-bet shoving on me, so he probably has me crushed. My brain is telling me to fold, but my hand tosses in a chip, and I hear myself say the word call. The dealer puts out the board. I don't improve. I know before the cards are even turned over. He looks at me and says, "Aces full, Mike." Which is weird, because the board isn't even paired. Plus my name's not Mike, my name's Brad. My dad's name is Mike, but he wasn't with us. Okay, he didn't really say that, but he did have aces. He takes it down. In general, it's not a mistake to get it in for less than 80 big blinds with ace-king. After seeing this particular opponent just flat a 3-bet with ace-king previously though, it's probably a good spot to fold. Had I taken more time to consider the situation, I think I could have gotten away from it. I add on 400 more. Shortly after, I pick up pocket queens in middle position. The player under the gun limps in, under the gun +2 limps in as well. I raise to 25. It folds back to the limpers and they both call. We go 3 ways to the flop. It comes queen 7 deuce rainbow, checks to me, I've got the nuts and there are no draws. I check back. The turn is the king of spades. Under the gun checks, under the gun +2, now bets 35. There isn't too much to worry about. There are some draws, but there's only one card to come. My opponent had just doubled someone up a few hands earlier and seemed to be on tilt. There's a good chance he's bluffing with few or no outs. I don't want to scare him off with a raise, so I just call. The player under the gun folds. We're now heads up. The river is the 5 of diamonds. The opponent shoves for 220. I call with the second best possible hand. He's embarrassed to show, so I turn over my hand first and the dealer pushes me the pot. I've got about 800 in front of me. I'm in for 9 total, so I still have some work to do to get unstuck. In this hand, I pick up pocket sixes, under the gun +1. This is a borderline hand for me in a tough game with lots of 3-betting. I definitely fold it from this position, especially in a 100 big blind cap game. We are deeper now though, and there hasn't been much 3-betting from the other players. I open to 15. Player in middle position calls. The big blind also calls. 3 of us see the flop. It comes 7-6-4 with 2 hearts. The flop is good. We open with the very bottom of our range pre-flop and smash it. We've got middle set. The big blind checks. I'll never slow play a hand like this since there are lots of draws and I connected with a board that I ordinarily won't connect with, making it more likely that my opponents won't believe that I have a strong hand and will call lighter. I bet 20. The middle position player calls and the big blind folds. We're heads up. The turn is the 3 of diamonds. 4 cards to the straight are out there. My opponent could have a straight, but he could also have a flush draw, 2 pair, or maybe even an overpair that he could call a bet with. Plus, if he does have a straight, I'll still have outs. I bet 50. The player calls. The river is another 4. We make a boat, and we're sailing to the land of riches. I bet slightly more than the pot, hoping it'll look like I missed a flush draw. The line I took should seem fishy enough to perhaps get a light call from pocket 8s or 9s, maybe a 7, and definitely a 5. I opened pre-flop from early position and got a flop of all low cards, which usually wouldn't help me too much. The turn brought 4 cards to the straight and I fire again, so there's some chance I could have a straight, but usually a 2-pair or set type of hand would check. The river pairs the board and I bomb it. Probably wouldn't do that with a straight anymore, so I'm representing very few value hands. The opponent tanks for a long time and eventually lets it go. He said he had a 5 for the straight. Who knows if that's true, but perhaps I should have bet less or even checked. Next we get Queen Jack offsuit in the big blind. It folds around to the small blind. He raises to 20. I've got 2 Broadway cards. It's only 15 more for me to call. I'm in position and closing the action. I tossed in the extra chips. We're heads up. The flop comes Queen 7-6 with 2 spades. The small blind bets 25. With top pair and a backdoor flush draw, I make the call. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. This time the opponent bets 40. It's a little worrisome that I'm facing a double barrel. Folding still doesn't seem that reasonable. I pull out 8 red chips and call again. The river is the 10 of spades. The flush draw gets there and the opponent checks. Checking back is fine. I felt I was ahead though, so I make a small bet of 35 and go for thin value. The opponent calls with pocket jacks. We win it. Here we have ace-queen offsuit in the big blind. The hijack limps in. The button, who's a fairly tight, competent player, raises to 25. The small blind calls. I 3-bet to 120. It folds back to the button, and he calls. The small blind folds. We're heads up. The flop comes 8-7-4 with 2 diamonds and 1 spade. We've completely missed. We're facing a solid player who raised pre-flop and flatted a fairly large 3-bet. He's going to have overpairs and ace-king a lot of the time. I don't think he'll fold those to a single bet, so if I want to bluff, I'll have to double or triple barrel with no guarantee that I'll get a fold. I also got caught bluffing this opponent in a tiny pot earlier on in this session, which could make a bluff attempt less likely to work at this point. I check. The opponent checks back. The turn is the 6 of diamonds. I check with the intention of folding to a bet. The button puts out 125. I let it go. Now we've got king-queen offsuit in the cutoff, under the gun, and under the gun +1 limp in. I raise to 30. Both players call. The flop comes 10-4-3 rainbow. We all check. The turn is the 6 of hearts. Both players check again. We have very little value with king high and put in the delayed c-bet. I make it 40. The other 2 opponents fold. We win the pot. In orbit later, we pick up ace-queen offsuit in the cutoff. The player under the gun limps in. We make it 25. The limper is the only caller. The flop comes jack-4-3 rainbow. The opponent checks. We check back. The turn is the jack of diamonds. 2 diamonds are out there now. The player bets 25. Folding seems too weak. Ace high could be good sometimes and we'll definitely have some outs. I call. The river is the king of clubs and the player checks. Checking back is okay, but this king is a good card for me to represent and get him off a hand like pocket 7s or 8s. I bet 45 and he folds. The last hand is a strange one since I get confused during the middle of it. I have ace-king offsuit in middle position. The player under the gun +1 limps in. I raise to 25. The button calls and has a pretty large stack for this game. The limper folds. We go heads up to the flop and it comes king-king 5. We flop trips. I bet 20. The button calls while saying high hand 100.
No, high hand 100.
So there's a promotion at the casino in which if you get any quads, you get $100, and if you have aces full of kings, you get $300. I saw a payout board earlier on our table, but at the time I wasn't sure of the rules or what the qualifying hand was to get paid. I also wasn't sure if the hand needed to get to showdown. Either way, it was pretty strange for the opponent to make this remark once I found out the rules after. Anyway, the turn is an ace, we make a boat, and another opponent now chimes in saying $300. Again, this is referring to the promotion. If you get exactly aces full of kings, then you get 300. I'm still not sure if my hand qualifies for the promotion at this point or if the hand has to get to showdown, but I don't want to mess it up. I check. The button bets 25. I just call. The river is another 5. I'm not sure what to do since I'm not clear on the rules. but I don't want it to get checked through, so I bet 120. It's about 80% of the pot. The button calls, I win with kings full of aces, not aces full of kings, and find out that my hand doesn't qualify for any extra promotion money. At least I win a decent pot. By this time, Charles and I are ready to go. I was stuck 400 at one point, but got out of the hole and ended up booking a small win on the day. Session's over here at Lucky Chances.
Took all their money.
Not quite. Not all of them? I played okay. Could have probably saved some money. Got a little greedy. An over bet in that spot with the sixes full of fours. Pretty tired. Not really thinking as clearly as normal and stuff. So happy to get unstuck. Charles, how much did you win?
I won 600 and something, 611.
Six something. So I won 183. So together got him for about 800. Good day. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll definitely get back to you. I read all the comments. I want to give a big thanks to Charles and his wife for letting me stay with them in San Francisco for a few nights, and also for putting together a bag full of food and wine and a bunch of other stuff for my family while the fires were going on. I'll have a link down below in the description box for Charles's YouTube channel. He puts up a lot of great poker content, so definitely check him out. And if you haven't yet checked out offthefelt.com, that's the poker forum site that my brother and I started a few months ago. We've got over 850 members now. It's absolutely free. It's a great way for you to get in contact with other poker players and definitely improve your own poker game. So check that out. The last thing is that Andrew and I are going to put together a meetup game in the Phoenix area sometime in the next week. I think November 7th is the date that we're planning right now. So follow us on Twitter and follow our Facebook page. It's called Mugs. I'll have a link below for that too. Hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time. This is my neighborhood here. This is my parents' place. We're just gonna take a little bit of a driving tour. Everything's okay except for, looks like the firemen took out the fence right near the house. And then everything's okay for a few houses up. The fire stopped right here actually, on the other side of the street. So that's about 50 yards from my parents. And they're doing some construction work on it now. And then you can see these houses burned down up here on both sides of the street. Jeez. This was my uncle's house. Completely destroyed. And this was my buddy's house right here. Let's turn around real quick. Somehow these two houses are still standing. And then there's police here, so I can't get past, I can't get any further than this.